If you miss the old America, the one unbroken by chaos, where skies feel infinite and life feels grounded, you need to see Montana, because here, beauty doesn't shout, it whispers. Every bend in the road, every glimmer of sunlight on the lakes, every rustle in the grass reminds you of something we've all forgotten, that peace still exists. Montana isn't just a place, it's a feeling. A reminder that some parts of America haven't vanished. They're just waiting quietly beneath the big sky. The Flathead is one of only 42 rivers in the entire United States protected as wild and scenic. But that title isn't just an honor. Back in the 1950s, the story almost took a very different turn. At the time, hydroelectric power was booming, and this valley looked like the perfect place for it. Engineers drew up plans for 7 massive dams, walls of concrete that would have flooded everything you see here. What saved the Flathead wasn't luck, it was the conviction. It was people who believed that some places shouldn't be improved, that not every river needs to be controlled. And in 1976, that belief finally became law, when Congress protected Flathead forever. It's strange to think about now. Standing here with the sound of running water and wind in the pines today, the Flathead flows as it always has. Clear, cold, and alive, cutting through glacier-carved valleys and feeding into Flathead Lake, one of the cleanest large lakes in the world. Its waters come straight from the Glacier National Park. And in a world where so many places have been changed beyond recognition, the Flathead stands as proof that sometimes saying no, saying let it stay as it is, can be the most powerful thing a person can do in Montana. The river still runs free, and with it, a piece of the America we thought was gone. Until the 1970s, this valley was just a land so wide and quiet, you could ride for miles and never see another soul. While the rest of America was chasing the future, landing on the moon, building freeways, filling cities, this corner of Montana stayed almost exactly the same. Then came a man with a vision, Chet Huntley, the calm voice once heard on NBC News. After years in the city, he returned home to Montana, dreaming of a mountain town that fit into the land, not over it. In 1970, he bought 11,000 acres of the old Lone Mountain Ranch. Three years later, Big Sky Resort opened. Huntley passed away the following year, but his dream lived on. He'd once said, "We're not trying to make another Aspen or Vail. We're trying to preserve what Montana is." And somehow, that's exactly what happened. Big Sky grew, sure, nearly 6,000 skiable acres now, one of the largest resorts in America. But it never lost its soul. On a winter morning here, the world is white and still, wrapped in deep snow that glows under the pale sun. You can hear nothing but the soft crunch of snow under your boots and the wind whispering through the pines. It feels like the kind of morning that belongs to no one, just the mountain itself. That's Big Sky. A place where modern life and the old American spirit somehow learn to live side by side. They say, there are trails that take you somewhere, and then there are trails that take you back in time. The paths leading to Logan Pass are exactly that. The hiking trails around Logan Pass have a history as remarkable as the mountains themselves. When Glacier National Park was established in 1910, there were no formal routes into much of the backcountry, just narrow paths used by wildlife and early rangers. In the 1910s and 1920s, crews from the Civilian Conservation Corps and local park workers began carving out the first official trails by hand. Using picks, shovels, and pack animals to haul supplies through the high passes. One of the earliest and most famous is the Highline Trail, completed in the 1920s. The trail hugs sheer cliffs, at times only a few feet wide, offering sweeping views of the valley below, and it hasn't changed much in 100 years. The name Logan Pass comes from William R. Logan, Glacier National Park's first superintendent. He understood that its value wasn't in what could be built here, but in what was already here. Some rivers are famous. But the Madison is something else entirely. Its history is every bit as powerful as the landscape it runs through. On the night of August 17th, 1959, the quiet of the Madison Canyon was shattered. A 7.3 magnitude earthquake, one of the strongest ever recorded in the Rocky Mountain region. Within seconds, the canyon walls gave way. 80 million tons of rock broke loose from the mountainside, racing downward at nearly 100 miles an hour. The massive landslide buried an entire campground beneath stone and dust, claiming 28 lives in moments. The Madison River, once a steady rush through the canyon, disappeared under the weight of a mountain that hadn't existed minutes before. What came next wasn't about power or machines. It was about persistence. Engineers did what they could to stabilize the slide, but nature was already writing its own ending. Over the next few weeks, the Madison began to reshape itself, twisting around boulders, carving through fresh earth, quietly creating a new channel. Today, Quake Lake rests quietly beneath the mountain's beautiful and still. To most, it's just another Montana lake. But if you stand there long enough, you can almost feel the force, the fear, and the silence that followed elk move silently through the valleys, their breath visible in the cold air. Bison graze in the open meadows, heavy and calm against the vast horizon. And that's Montana in a single story, no matter what stands in its way. Missoula sits in a valley carved over thousands of years by rivers, wind, and time. Long before this land was home to native tribes who traveled through these mountains, followed the rivers, and understood the rhythm of this place. Later, it became a trading route, then a timber town, and eventually a wilderness-loving community built around nature, learning, and slow mornings. There's history in every ridge and trail, not loud but steady, like the city itself. The Clark Fork River moves through the heart of the city, steady and patient, a deep blue thread stitching Missoula together and where summer unfold at Ogren Park. As baseball plays under Montana skies and cheers rise into the mountains. Look up and you'll see Mount Sentinel watching over the city, not just a backdrop, but a reminder of scale and time. Just a short drive south from Missoula, the road opens toward Lolo, a place where Montana begins to feel even more like Montana. Lolo National Forest unfolds in layers of deep green, mountains rising like waves covered in pine and morning mist. Rivers slip through the valleys here, clear and steady, catching sunlight as they move past smooth stones and quiet forests. Not far from here lies Holland Lake, resting at the base of the Swan Mountains. Its glacial waters shine a clear turquoise, perfectly mirroring the peaks above. The sky paints itself across the still water. Together, Missoula and Holland Lake reflect two sides of Montana's soul, one alive with quiet human warmth, and the other resting in untamed stillness. Livingston was founded in 1882. It began as a Northern Pacific Railroad town. The very first gateway to Yellowstone National Park. In the 1930s, Ernest Hemingway found inspiration in the quiet rhythm of the Yellowstone River, casting his line into waters that still shimmer beneath the same Montana sun. But Livingston isn't a relic of the past, it's a survivor. In 1997, the Yellowstone River flooded, one of the worst in local history. Streets vanished underwater, homes and businesses stood in peril, yet the people of Livingston rebuilt it the only way Montanans know how, sandbag by sandbag, neighbor by neighbor. Out of that flood rose not just a restored town, but a stronger community, bound by the same resilience that's defined Livingston for more than a century. Lake McDonald, the largest in Glacier National Park, was carved thousands of years ago by massive glaciers that once ruled this valley. When the ice finally retreated, it left behind a lake so still and clear that even in summer, the water rarely rises above 50 degrees. Stretching 10 miles long and nearly 500 feet deep, it sits framed by snow-capped peaks that tower over the water. By the early 1900s, travelers and adventurers were making their way along rugged trails to reach these calm shores. By 1913, Lake had become a destination for adventurers, and today, people glide across its waters in kayaks, tracing the lake's crystal surface, while surrounded by snowy towering mountains, whose reflections are so perfectly that it's easy to lose sight of where the earth ends and the sky begins. Bozeman's story begins in 1864, a turning point in the American frontier. Settlers drifted in from the east, chasing gold in nearby Virginia City. Among them was John Bozeman. He looked at the wide open land and the towering Gallatin Mountains and saw a future. He realized this could be more than just a stopover for travelers heading west. It could be a home, a place to rest, trade, and build something that could outlast the rush for gold. So he laid the foundation for what would become the town of Bozeman. Life here was far from easy. The early settlers faced brutal winters, long stretches of isolation, and constant uncertainty. Supplies came slowly, and the land demanded hard work. Yet they stayed, because they believed in what John Bozeman saw. Even after his mysterious death in 1867, his vision didn't die with him. The town continued to grow, quietly becoming the heart of southwest Montana. By 1893, a new chapter began when the Montana State University was founded. What started as a small agricultural college surrounded by open fields has now become one of the most respected research universities in the region. Today, Bozeman sits beneath the towering Gallatin Mountains. Every season brings its own kind of beauty. Mornings begin with sunlight spilling across snow-dusted peaks, and evenings end beneath skies painted in gold and violet. The Gallatin Mountains are far older than any town. Millions of years ago, powerful forces of fire and ice shaped these peaks as part of the Great Rocky Mountains. In summer, the slopes burst with pine and wildflowers, and meadows come alive with wild horses roaming freely. When winter arrives, the snow wraps the town in quiet, and the Gallatin peaks glow white under the soft light of the moon. It's the kind of America that feels timeless, unhurried, grounded, and deeply connected to the land. A place where beauty doesn't have to be found. It's simply lived every single day. Hebgen Lake looks peaceful now, calm waters reflecting the wide Montana sky. But beneath that calm, glassy surface lies a story deeply tied to the Madison River, one written in the language of earth and motion. On August 17, 1959, the ground shook with one of the strongest earthquakes in Montana's history. A 7.5 magnitude quake that forever changed this landscape. In just seconds, the mountains cracked, sending millions of tons of rock crashing into the Madison River Canyon. The force created a massive natural dam, blocking the river and forming what is now known as Quake Lake. Hebgen and Madison share the same story from that night. As the Madison was buried under rock, Hebgen's waters roared and surged. Wild and untamed, both were transformed, marked by nature's power, yet neither was ever truly broken. Today, Hebgen Lake is alive with activity and striking scenery. Its deep blue waters stretch for miles, framed by rugged mountains. Early morning mist hovers over the surface. Boats glide across the lake, even pulling someone on a boogie board, skimming over the waves. Despite its turbulent past, Hebgen Lake remains a vivid symbol of Montana's wild, enduring beauty. The Flathead River, born high in the Rocky Mountains, winds through forests and valleys before pouring into this vast lake. Flathead Lake itself is the largest natural freshwater lake, stretching nearly 28 miles long and 15 miles wide. Its crystal clear waters reflect the sky and mountains so perfectly that it's easy to forget where the earth ends and the water begins. The lake's outflow continues as part of the river system, carrying life downstream, linking mountains, water, and people in a rhythm that has shaped this land for thousands of years. Long before modern boats and tourists arrived, Flathead Lake was a lifeline for the Salish and Kootenai people, who called it the heart of the lake country. Today, Flathead Lake is stunning. Its crystal clear waters mirror the surrounding mountain peaks, dotted with small, forested islands. In summer, golden sunlight shimmers across the surface, while autumn paints the shoreline with vibrant colours. People come from all over to experience it. Some glide across the water on wakeboards, the boats wake carving bright lines across the lake's glacier expanse, a perfect mix of adventure and natural beauty. Flathead Lake and the Flathead River together are a living heartbeat of Montana. Lamar Valley sits at the northeastern edge of Yellowstone National Park, along the border of Montana and Wyoming. Known as America's Serengeti, it's a vast stretch of grasslands framed by distant mountains, where wildlife moves as freely as it did centuries ago. The Lamar River winds gently through the valley, its waters reflecting the sky and adding a shimmering ribbon of life to the landscape native tribes once traveled these lands, hunting and living in harmony with the rhythms of the valley. By the 1800s, trappers and explorers recorded massive herds of bison, sometimes numbering in the tens of thousands, roaming these plains. Today, these bison, often called buffalo, still dominate Lamar Valley, grazing alongside pronghorn. Seeing them move across the open grasslands is a living reminder of the wild that once defined this land and continues to shape its story. The Beartooth Highway isn't just a road, it's a gateway into Montana's landscapes. Every bend tells a story. It was built in the 1930s by determined hands, without modern machines, carving a path through sheer rock to link remote valleys and mountain passes. Opened in 1936, it winds through the Beartooth Mountains, a jagged range shaped over millions of years by fire, ice, and relentless geological forces. Towering peaks rise above 12,000 feet, their snow-capped summits glowing in the sunlight, while hidden glaciers cling stubbornly to shaded valleys. Among these soaring peaks lies Island Lake, a hidden jewel in the mountains. Its turquoise waters reflect the rugged cliffs above. While ducks fly gracefully over the pristine surface, adding life to a scene so perfect it feels like a painting come to life. The Beartooths are more than mountains. They are a living testament to the power and beauty of nature. This is Montana, the last refuge of untamed beauty in America. Montana is more than a place. It's a feeling. It's in the vast skies that stretch endlessly above, in mountains carved by millennia, and in rivers that whisper stories older than any human memory. Here, the wild refuses to yield, moving to its own timeless rhythm, and every stone, every breeze, every shadow carries a history that humbles and inspires life. Here is measured by seasons, by the rise and fall of the sun over open plains, and by the resilience of those who call this land home. Montana teaches patience, wonder, and reverence, reminding us that beauty is not rushed and power does not demand attention. This is Montana, a land that stirs the heart, awakens the senses, and lingers in your soul long after you leave.